Hello and welcome to The Bottom Line, the weekly summary of the sermon that's preached here at Bethlehem Church. My name is Paul Steele. I'm the pastor here at Bethlehem Church, and currently we've been in this sermon series through the book of Galatians entitled Living in Grace. Now, the book of Galatians is a book or a letter that was written by the Apostle Paul to a group of churches in the province of Galatia, which is a Roman province that Paul and his companion Barnabas had started. Now, when Paul and Barnabas went to Galatia, they brought with them the gospel, and this is their gospel. The gospel is the proclamation that God's kingdom is coming into this world through the person of Jesus. Because of his life, his death, his resurrection, God is restoring, renewing his creation, and he's bringing all people into his family. He's restoring this global family. And so they had this message that even though the Galatians were predominantly Gentiles, that they could be part of God's family, that they didn't have to be Jews, that God, through Jesus, had opened this all up. Now, after Paul and Barnabas left, there was this group of Jewish Christians called the Judaizers that came behind him and said, no, that's not true. Paul's message, his gospel, the gospel he's teaching is not correct. You have to be circumcised. You have to follow the law. You have to eat you have to eat kosher. You have to observe Sabbath days. These are the things you have to do if you want to be part of God's family. Paul hears about this and he writes to them, right, to say, no, that's not true. And he's reminding them of some very important truths, some pieces of evidence that will help the Galatians see, yeah, they are indeed part of God's global family. And so first, Paul reminds them that the gospel message that he preached had its stamp of approval from the apostles in Jerusalem, that he had shared it with Peter, James, and John, and they gave them the thumbs up. He reminded them that they received the Spirit, and the Holy Spirit is the sign that we are in covenant relationship with God, that they had received the Spirit, not based on keeping the law, because they hadn't even heard about the law yet, but based on their faith in Jesus. He reminded them that the law had a specific purpose, that its purpose was given to the nation of Israel at Sinai to separate Israel out from among the nations so that they could prepare the way for the Messiah. That Abraham was credited as righteous, not because he kept the law, because the law hadn't been given yet because of his faith. And so Paul continues on with this argument, reminding them about the truth of the gospel. And the first thing that Paul reminded them in our text from Sunday, which was Galatians chapter 3, verse 26 through chapter 4, verse 7, the first thing he reminded them is that the gospel brings a change of identity, that through Jesus, there is no longer Jew or Gentile, slave or free, male or female. What matters, what makes us part of the covenant with God is our faith in Jesus and having been baptized or clothed with Jesus. Because we are in Jesus, we are part of God's global family. These other distinctions don't matter anymore. He reminded them that the gospel declares everyone a slave. He says, even though Israel, the Jews, were heirs, they were part of Abraham's descendants, they were no better off than slaves because they were under the law. That God had set a time for them to receive the inheritance, which was Jesus, after Jesus. And so everyone was a slave, whether you were under the law or under some other pagan religion, you were still a slave. And it was Jesus that brings freedom. And that freedom is available to everyone. And the last thing that Paul, or the last truth Paul said about the gospel, is that the gospel teaches that the Spirit is the sign of being a child, because the Holy Spirit is within us and crying out, Abba, Father, giving us the ability to cry out to God for help, for salvation. And because of these things, again, it's not about observing the law, becoming a Jew. No, it's about putting your faith in Jesus. And so the big idea from Sunday is this: the gospel brings a new identity of freedom to people. Freedom is found in Jesus, not in observing the law. The law was a taskmaster for the Jews, but now now its purpose has been fulfilled, and we can live in freedom because of Jesus, whether you're a Jew or a Gentile. And so our challenge this week is to write down 3 ways God has freed you from slavery. How has God freed you? How has God brought freedom into your life? And then thank God for that freedom. Thank you for taking some time to watch. Hopefully this is an encouragement to you, a reminder that what really matters is our faith in Jesus. If you are in the Austin, Minnesota area, I want to encourage you to come to Bethlehem on Wednesday. On Wednesday, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock for an ice cream social. Wednesday, July 21st at 7 o'clock, right next to Ellis Middle School. Come and join and be a part of what we're doing, just a time of community. And also want to encourage you to come and join us for worship on Sunday mornings, a time when we can sing worship, praises to God, a time that we can pray with one another, a time that we can hear the Bible being read and explained. We'd love for you to be a part of what we're doing here at Bethlehem. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of the week, and God bless.